My own children left me dying in a hospital bed. Then a white janitor I'd never met became the family they never were. I woke up in that hospital bed at 3 a.m., tubes running from my arms, machines beeping around me. And the first thought that entered my mind was, my children aren't coming back. Not, maybe they're stuck in traffic. Not, they'll be here in the morning. I knew, deep in my bones, that my 4 children, the babies I'd raised, sacrificed for, loved with every breath in my body, had walked out of that hospital room and weren't planning to return. My name is Dorothy Mae Johnson. I'm 68 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about a white janitor named Tommy who saw a dying black woman that nobody wanted, and decided she was worth saving. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how I got here. I was born in 1956 in Birmingham, Alabama, during a time when the color of your skin determined which water fountain you could drink from. My mama cleaned white folks' houses, and my daddy worked the steel mills until the heat and the heavy labor took him at 52. They taught me 2 things. Work hard and take care of your own. I did both. Lord knows I did both. I married young, 18 years old, to a man named Charles Johnson who promised me the world. We moved to Detroit in 1975, chasing factory jobs and a better life. I had 4 babies by the time I was 30, Darnell, Keisha, Marcus, and my baby girl Tamika. Charles left when Tamika was 2. Said the pressure of providing for a family was crushing him. I never saw him again. Never got a dime of child support. So I did what black women have always done. I survived. I worked 2 jobs. Cleaned offices at night. Worked the assembly line at the automotive plant during the day. Slept 4 hours if I was lucky. My children never went hungry. Never wore shoes with holes. Never missed a school field trip, because mama couldn't afford the $5 fee. Darnell became a lawyer. Keisha's a corporate executive in Chicago. Marcus runs his own construction company. Tamika's a doctor, a surgeon no less. For successful children who graduated college, bought big houses, drove nice cars. I was so proud. Thought I'd done everything right. Then I got sick. It started with fatigue I couldn't shake. Then the chest pains. Then one morning I collapsed in my kitchen. And my neighbor Miss Betty found me and called 911. The doctors said my heart was failing. Years of stress, high blood pressure I couldn't afford to treat properly, and a lifetime of putting everyone else first had caught up with me. They admitted me to Detroit Memorial Hospital on a Tuesday. Said I needed surgery but my heart was too weak. They'd have to stabilize me first, monitor me, see if I got strong enough to survive the operation. My children came that first day. All 4 of them, dressed in their expensive clothes, standing around my bed with worried faces. Mama, you're going to be fine, Darnell said, but he was checking his watch. We're here for you, Keisha added, already typing on her phone. Marcus kissed my forehead and told me to rest. Tamika, the doctor, spoke to my medical team and came back looking grave. That night, after they all left, I overheard 2 nurses talking outside my room. Family meeting broke up pretty quick. I heard them arguing in the hallway. Something about who's going to pay for all this. Her insurance won't cover everything. Those kids don't look like they're hurting for money. Never the ones who do. Wednesday, only Darnell and Keisha came. Stayed 20 minutes. Thursday, just Marcus. Friday, nobody. By Saturday, I understood. The hospital bills were piling up. I'd need long-term care. Maybe nursing home placement. I'd become expensive, inconvenient, a burden. On Sunday morning, Darnell came alone. Stood at the foot of my bed. Wouldn't meet my eyes. Mama, we've been talking. Me, Keisha, Marcus, and Tamika. We think. Maybe it's time to consider your options. What options? My voice was so weak. There's a state facility. Medicaid will cover it. You'll get the care you need. A state facility? I felt tears burning. Baby, I don't want to go to one of those places. I want to go home. I want. Mama, we can't. He said it so quick, like he'd been practicing. We can't take time off work to care for you. We have our own families, our own responsibilities. You understand. I did understand. I understood that the children I'd sacrificed everything for were choosing their comfortable lives over their dying mother. When you feeling better, we'll visit you there. Get you settled nice. He backed toward the door. I gotta go, Mama. Michelle's got the kids in the car. Darnell. But he was gone. That was Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday passed. No visites. No calls. The nurses looked at me with pity. By Thursday, I'd given up. Stopped eating the terrible hospital food. Stopped doing the breathing exercises. What was the point? My children had already buried me in their minds. I was just waiting for my body to catch up. That's when I met Tommy. Thursday, I surprised myself. Stay. Please. I haven't had anyone just sit with me in days. So he did. This white janitor I'd never met sat with a dying black woman and asked me the simplest question. You want to talk about it? And Lord help me, I did. I told him everything. About my 4 children who'd forgotten I existed. About working myself to the bone to give them opportunities one never had. About lying in that bed knowing I'd die alone. Tommy listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said something I'll never forget. Mrs. Johnson, I don't know your children, so I can't speak for them. But I know what it's like to be forgotten. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. Our kids live out of state, and I see them maybe once a year. I work this night shift because sitting in an empty house remembering what I lost was killing me faster than any disease. He reached over and took my hand. This white man holding the hand of a black woman in a hospital in Detroit. And somehow it felt like the most natural thing in the world. You're not going to die alone, Mrs. Johnson. Not on my watch. I didn't believe him. How could I? But Tommy came back the next night. And the night after that. Every shift, he'd finish his rounds and spend his break in my room. He'd bring me real food from the cafeteria. Not the bland hospital meals, but the good stuff the staff ate. He'd tell me stories about his late wife, Betty, and their life together. He'd make me laugh with tales of the crazy things he'd seen working hospital night shifts for 20 years. Mrs. Johnson, he said one night, you got to start eating proper. Got to do your exercises. You want to show those doctors you're strong enough for surgery. Why, Tommy? What's the point? The point? He looked at me like I'd asked why the sky was blue. The point is you're a human being with value. The point is the world needs good people in it, and you strike me as good people. The point is I'll be damned if I watch someone give up just because their kids are too busy to see what they've got right in front of them. Something about the way he said it, not pity, but genuine belief, made me try. I started eating. Started doing the breathing exercises. When the physical therapist came, I worked harder than I had in days. But my children still didn't come. 2 weeks passed. Tommy and I had fallen into a routine. He'd come in around midnight, and we'd talk until his shift ended at 7 a.m. He told me about growing up poor in rural Kentucky, how he'd worked construction until a back injury forced him into lighter work. I told him about Birmingham, about the civil rights movement I'd witnessed as a child, about the dreams I'd had before life got in the way. You know what's funny, Mrs. Johnson? Tommy said one night. My daddy would have had a fit knowing I'm sitting here talking to a black woman like we're old friends. He was a product of his time and place. Died bitter, full of hate he'd been taught since birth. And you? And me? I figured out pretty young that hating people for how God made them was exhausting. Betty, my wife, she was the one who really opened my eyes. Worked as a nurse in the 60s and 70s, saw how black folks got treated in hospitals. Used to come home crying about babies dying because doctors wouldn't treat them as seriously as white babies. She taught me that everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves care. Everyone deserves to be seen. He squeezed my hand. Your children should be here, Mrs. Johnson. I'm sorry they're not. But you've got me, for what it's worth. It's worth a lot, Tommy. More than you know. The next day, my doctor came in with news. My heart had stabilized enough. They wanted to schedule surgery for the following week. That's wonderful. The nurse was excited. Do you want us to call your children? I hesitated. Tommy, who was replacing the trash bag in my room during his day shift coverage, caught my eye and nodded encouragingly. Yes, please call them. They called. All 4 of my children said they'd come for the surgery. On the morning of my operation, I woke early. Tommy had just finished his shift but had stayed, sitting in the corner of my room in his janitor's uniform, eyes red from lack of sleep. Tommy, you should go home. Get some rest. I'll rest after you're out of surgery and awake. Someone needs to be here when you wake up. At 7:30 a.m., my children arrived. All four of them, dressed like they were going to business meetings, looking uncomfortable and guilty. They stopped short when they saw Tommy sitting there. Mama, Darnell said slowly, who's this? This is Tommy. He's been taking care of me while you all were busy. Keisha looked confused. Is he a doctor? Janitor, Mom. Tommy stood, extending his hand. I work here at the hospital. Marcus actually laughed, a mean little sound. Mama's got a janitor keeping her company? That's sad. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the surgery ahead. Maybe it was 3 weeks of abandonment. Maybe it was seeing this good man dismissed by my own children. You want to know what's sad, Marcus? My voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. What's sad is that a man I met 3 weeks ago, who makes minimum wage mopping floor. I wanted to be more than someone's maid and someone's factory worker. But I had 4 babies who needed me, so I put those dreams in a box and I never opened it again. Tamika, my baby girl, was crying. Mama, we're sorry. Sorry doesn't sit beside me at 3 a.m. when I'm scared I'm going to die. Sorry doesn't bring me real food when I can't stomach another hospital meal. Sorry doesn't hold my hand and tell me I'm worth saving. I pointed at Tommy, who was trying to make himself invisible in the corner. That man did all of that. A stranger. A white janitor who had no reason to care about an old black woman who wasn't his problem. The room was silent except for the beeping machines and Tamika's quiet crying. A nurse appeared at the door. Mrs. Johnson, we're ready for you. As they wheeled me out, I looked at Tommy. Will you be here when I wake up? I'll be here, Mrs. Johnson. Promise. I promise. I looked at my children, standing there in their expensive clothes with their guilty faces. You all can go. Go back to your important lives. Tommy's got this. The surgery took 6 hours. When I woke up in recovery, groggy and in pain, the first face I saw was Tommy's. He'd changed out of his uniform and was wearing clean civilian clothes. Sitting in the chair beside my bed, holding my hand. There she is, he said softly. Welcome back, Mrs. Johnson. You stayed. I promised, didn't I? Over his shoulder. I could see my children in the hallway through the glass. All 4 of them looking lost. Over the next 3 weeks as I recovered, my children did come back. Not because they suddenly cared, but because they were ashamed. Tommy had shown them what love actually looked like, and they couldn't escape the comparison. Darnell came and sat with me one afternoon. Couldn't look me in the eye. Mama, I'm sorry. I got so caught up in my career, in providing for my family, that I forgot. I forgot you're the reason I even have a career. 6 months after my surgery, my children threw me a celebration of life party for my 69th birthday. All my grandchildren came. Friends from the old neighborhood. Even some folks from the church I used to attend. But the guest of honor, the one I insisted sit right next to me, was Tommy. Before we cut the cake, I stood up, still a little weak but standing, and made a speech. I'm going to tell you all something true. 6 months ago, I was ready to die. Not because my body was giving up, but because my spirit was. My children, whom I loved more than life, had shown me that I was only valuable when I was useful. When I became a burden, they disappeared. My children shifted uncomfortably, but I continued. Then God sent me an angel. Not the kind from the Bible with wings and harps. A regular angel in a janitor's uniform with a mop in his hands. I turned to Tommy, who was trying not to cry. This man saved my life. Not just by encouraging me to fight, but by showing me that I was worth saving. He didn't care that I was black and he was white. Didn't care that I was nobody and he had nothing to gain. He just saw a human being who needed help, and he helped. I looked at my children. I want you all to learn something from Tommy. Real love isn't convenient. Real family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. Who sits with you in the dark. Who holds your hand when you're scared. Who sees you when you're invisible to everyone else. I raised my glass. To Tommy. The family I didn't know I needed. Thank you for teaching my children what I couldn't. That honor thy mother and father isn't just a suggestion. It's the foundation of being human. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Today, 2 years later, I'm 70 years old and healthier than I've been in a decade. Tommy still visits twice a week. My children visit more often now, but the relationship has changed. They learned a hard lesson about taking people for granted. Last month, Tommy's daughter called me. Her father had suffered a stroke. Nothing major, but he needed someone to stay with him for a few weeks during recovery. I didn't hesitate. I packed a bag and moved into Tommy's small house in the suburbs. Cooked his meals. Made sure he did his physical therapy. Sat with him in the evenings and told him stories while he recovered his strength. His daughter thanked me with tears in her eyes. I'm so glad Dad has you. I should be here, but work is so crazy right now. I stopped her. Honey, I understand. But let me tell you something. Your daddy was there when nobody else was. Now I get to return the favor. That's what family does. Tommy recovered, and the day I helped him back to his own bed in his own house, he looked at me and said, Mrs. Johnson, I need to tell you something. What's that, Tommy? That day I met you in the hospital, I'd been thinking about ending it all. After Betty died, I couldn't see a reason to keep going. I was going through the motions, but inside I was dead. Then I saw you, and taking care of you gave me a purpose again. You saved my life just as much as I saved yours. We both cried then. Two old people who'd found each other in the darkest moment, and become the family neither of us knew we needed. Here's what I want you to understand. My children aren't villains. They're human beings who made mistakes, who got lost in their own lives, who forgot where they came from. They're trying to do better now, and I appreciate that. But Tommy? Tommy is proof that the world still has good people in it. People who see beyond color, beyond class, beyond what's convenient. People who understand that we're all just walking each other home. And the journey is better when we help carry each other's burdens. I spent 50 years raising children who left me when I needed them most. A stranger spent 3 weeks showing me that I was worth saving. That's not a story about my children's failure. That's a story about one man's extraordinary decency. And it's a reminder to every person watching this. The way you treat people when it's inconvenient, when they can't give you anything back.